At the beginning of this week, I posted this analysis on my LinkedIn. It was about AUDUSD potentially setting up for a high probability bearish move. At the time of that post, price had already reached my sell zone, so which was somewhere in this red zone. And the reaction from that level started to confirm the idea almost immediately. Since then, price has continued moving in line with the bearish bias, and it's now progressing toward my take profit target, which is somewhere in this green area. So in this video, I want to break down exactly why I was looking for sells on AUDUSD and what the market structure was telling me at that time, and how volume confirmation helped validate the setup before the move fully unfolded. Hi everyone, this is Marjan and this is my very first video in English. And in my trading, I use volume analysis to track institutional order flow in the Forex market. Subscribe if you're interested in reading institutional order flow through volume analysis. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into the AUD-USD analysis. One of the first things I do at the start of every week is compare relative strength across major currencies against the US dollar. And this week, AUD stood out clearly. While pairs like euro and pound had already started reacting to dollar strength, AUD, or the Australian dollar, was still relatively extended and showing lagging downside reaction. So that divergence is important because when one currency pair becomes overextended compared to the rest of the market, it often becomes the liquidity target for institutional repositioning. So instead of just trading the chart in isolation, the first clue came from intermarket weakness. AUD was simply too stretched relative to other USD pairs. Now, when I move to the chart, the structure, let's go back to 4-hour time frame. The structure confirmed that I was already seeing on the relative strength side. We had a clean ascending trend line that had been holding price for a while, as you can see here. This was the ascending trend line. And the structure eventually broke to the downside, as you can see. And it wasn't a weak break, it showed like a clear momentum, which is usually a sign of a structural shift rather than just a noise. And what's important is that even before the breakout here, price somehow failed to break above the previous high. As you can see, this was the last high and the price couldn't even reach the highest high, which is exactly where I started paying close attention for a potential continuation move lower. Because in institutional trading logic, the first breakout is not just the opportunity. The retest is where the real confirmation often appears. So after the breakout, as you can see, price began retracing back because we were here. It began retracing back. I moved to 1 hour time frame. So the price began retracing back to the broken trend line, which is what I've been paying attention and where I've been looking for selling. So when price moved back into my selling zone, which I had identified here, that was my selling zone. And when price moved back into my selling zone, I wasn't reacting emotionally. I was reacting to the structure. Before, that's like a real clue for selling in my in the red zone. Before price even reached that retest zone, I'd had already rejected from another high volume area, and I started moving toward the predefined sell region, which was here, and it was like a really high volume area that I had defined for myself. So you can see there is a reversal here, and it reached to my sell zone. And an early sign that sellers were already active in the market. And price only tapped into the edge of the zone and quickly rotated lower, as you can see, indicating a strong selling pressure stepping in immediately. And that zone represented that the broken trend line reset, that could be one of the first clue, a previous inefficiency area, and a liquidity region where stops would likely be sitting above. This is where the market often delivers a final liquidity sweep before continuation. And as price entered the area, I focused on one key confirmation, and it was volume behavior. This is exactly where volume price analysis became the deciding factor. As AUDUSD moved back up into the sell zone, which was here, buying volume started to decline, as you can see here. That's a critical sign, because if this move was truly driven by a strong bullish institutional interest, we would expect to see expanding volume supporting the move to move to higher levels at least. Instead, we saw the opposite. Price pushing higher with weakening participation. That tells us buyers are technically losing momentum. And in many cases, that kind of a structure suggests the move is not like an organic demand, but rather a liquidity driven retracement designed to fill orders before continuation lower. So the trade idea wasn't based on a single factor. It was a combination of relative weakness in AUD, a clear structural trend line as I showed you earlier, and a retest into a defined sell zone, which was here, and declining bullish volume during the retracement. When all these signs are aligned, the probability of continuation increases significantly, as you can see. And that's exactly what we are now seeing play out. Price moving lower from that zone and progressing toward the take profit level, which was somewhere here. And I was waiting for the price to reach here. And now, even though the bearish move is developing as expected, as you can see, price still hasn't reached my final take profit target, which was somewhere in this green area. So which means maybe next week's behavior becomes very important for this currency pair. One possible scenario is that the market comes back here to the retest, um, to retest my sell zone, and one more time maybe. And this makes sense in a way because the area itself wasn't relatively low in volume. If you could check the volume here, and the markets often revisit low volume regions to rebalance liquidity before continuing in the dominant direction. And at the same time, I don't want to immediately look for another sell before a sell entry before the current time cycle is completed. As you can see, I already put this um, time cycle here, which is not completed yet. And for me, timing matters just as much as the structure and value. So once that time window is filled, which is here, and I expect it to happen some somewhere on Monday. Yeah, as you can see on the timeline. I expect it to happen on Monday, and once that time window is filled, if prices starts showing weaker buying pressure and declining bullish participation again, then I'll be interested in looking for another short opportunity. Targeting the lower zone I've marked on the chart, which is here. So for now, the key focus is not predicting, but waiting to see whether buyers can maintain momentum or whether the market starts showing signs of exhaustion, again, near the retest area. So the key takeaway from this AUDUSD setup is not about predicting the market or trying to catch the exact top. It's about understanding when market structure begins to shift, recognizing where institutional liquidity is likely positioned, and using volume to confirm whether buyers or sellers are truly in control. In this case, the combination of structural weakness, declining bullish participation, and reaction from the sell zone provided the confirmation I was looking for. So, if you're interested in volume-based analysis and institutional market behavior, make sure to subscribe and follow the journey as I continue breaking down these setups in real time. And remember, the market doesn't reward assumptions. It rewards patience, confirmation, and execution.